Hello, and welcome to Local Legacies, the show where we go behind the scenes with enterprising individuals who are striving for the best in their business, family, community, and themselves. I'm your host, Tim Lanza, and without further ado, here's this week's guest. All right, everybody, welcome back. Today in the studio, I have Joshua Page with me. I'm very excited to speak with you. We had chatted a little bit on the phone and pretty much hit it off right away. You're a talented man. You got a lot going on, and you've done a lot both in your businesses and for the community. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and what you've got going on now?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So it was Friday night. My mom was dropping me off for football practice. My dad was picking me up because it was his weekend. And Mom barely made it out of the parking lot on her way to the hospital because she was so nauseous. She's been sick all week long. She was admitted overnight, and my dad got the phone call the next morning. And he said, "We'll be right there." So my dad rushed me to the hospital. And it was in that waiting room with the rest of my family, my aunts, uncles, grandparents, that I found out that my mom had a cancerous brain tumor. She was immediately put into surgery, and she recovered in the ICU. And I can still remember the nurse bring me down the hallway to see Mom, and I can hear the shuffling of the nurses and doctors' feet and the beeping of the machines. And there's Mom in the distance on the hospital bed with a big bandage wrapped around her head and wires all over her. And I don't know if it was the smell of the hospital or the look of Mom on that hospital bed, but I was just sick to my stomach. And we would spend the next 6 months to a year going back and forth at our hospital for radiation and chemotherapy treatment. And in our house, we had a couch on the back wall in our living room. And towards the front of the house was a window, and that was Mom's perch. She would just sit there and she would watch me and my friends play football. She'd watch the cars go by, people walking their dogs. And eventually that couch was replaced with a hospital bed. It was at the same hospital bed that I saw Mom in the ICU that time. Eventually Mom got so sick that my family told her that she could no longer care for me and that my father was to get full custody. And it was early morning, February 2nd. I was sleeping on the top bunk of my half-brother's bed, and he loved Barney. So he had Barney curtains and Barney sheets and pillowcases. And my dad, all 6'2" of them, came into that room, shook me awake, and said, "Josh, your mom died this morning." I was 13 years old, and I just lost my best friend, my mom, to cancer. I was living in a house that I only visited every other week, with a stepmother that I never got along with. And after a few months, I decided I just couldn't take it anymore and I was going to run away. So at that time, my bedroom was in the basement. And during the day, I put my mountain bike on the side of the garage. And about 11:30 that night, I got out of bed. I snuck out the basement door. I grabbed my mountain bike and I brought it over to the chain link fence. And I threw the bike over the chain link fence, climbed up and over as I did 100 times before, and I rode that bike as fast as I could to my girlfriend's house about 20 minutes away. It was pitch dark. I was scared. At that time, I didn't know if the cops were going to come get me, if some bad guy was going to get me in the middle of the night. By the time I got to my girlfriend's house, she lived on the second floor, and her window was on the left side of the house. And I reached down and grabbed some pebbles, and I threw them up at her window. And all of a sudden, I saw her bedroom light go on, and then the front porch light go on, and then the front door opened, and out stepped her mother. And I was like, busted. So I told her, "Do not call my dad. I'm not going back there. Call my aunt. She'll come pick me up." So my aunt came and picked me up. She brought me to school the next morning. And then, unfortunately, I had to go back and live with my dad that night. Now, in all of this, I was a C&D student. I didn't like school. I knew I wasn't going to go to college. and I found out about this trade school that you only had to go to school 2 weeks out of the month, and the other 2 weeks were trade. And I was like, sign me up. That's where I want to go to school. And growing up, I always liked the animatronics and the makeup in the movies. So I'm like, I'm going to go to school to go into cosmetology. Well, I soon found out what cosmetology really meant, and I couldn't picture myself doing French tips, French braids, and manicures for the rest of my life. So I said, no, I can't go into that trade. I failed out of plumbing, and I had a few friends that were in electrical. So I said, you know what? I'll go into electrical. High school is not easy. I was suspended 3 out of my 4 years in high school. I had summer school for electrical related. And junior year, I ran away again. This time I had a car instead of a mountain bike, and I just never went home. I ended up living with my aunt for the rest of my high school career. And it wasn't until senior year that I really smartened up and said, I have to change. I have to figure something out. My mom has passed away. I don't talk to my dad. I live in the breezeway of my aunt's house, forever grateful and thankful for it, but I really need to figure myself out. So I smartened up. I got good grades. I graduated from that school, and I went to become an electrician. And I really think the trades saved my life, because when I started building and doing stuff in the electrical field, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment by building, putting stuff together, wiring buildings. And I could see the lights turn on or the outlets work. And I was part of that. I could drive by buildings that I worked on, or school buildings, because I worked for a large electrical company. I could drive by those buildings and say, I wired that. I was a part of this. There was a lot of employees, so I was a part of a big team. And I really think that's what made the big difference to me by joining the trades and becoming an electrician. And I don't think if I went to that trade school, I don't think I'd be the person I am today.
So it sounds like your senior year, you flipped that switch. Obviously, you weren't a dumb kid, or you had the ability to get good grades if you applied yourself.
If you consider C's and D's good grades, then yes, I did.
At least you got by. You got to where you wanted to be or needed to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I thought, I grew up building cars with my dad, doing stuff, and I thought I wanted to be an engineer because of that. And so I took some pre-engineering classes, and it's like you sit down at the computer and you design this thing on the computer, and it's like, no, this isn't what I want to do. I want to just actually build something. And they're like, oh, that's not engineering. Engineering is you design it and draw it out, and then someone else builds it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, you don't get that same satisfaction of creating something with your hands.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I spent 8 years at that company. I achieved my journeyman's license, my master's license, and I was doing really well. I got married to my girlfriend that I was with her since I was 19 years old. So we became husband and wife. I had a son, and I wanted to do something different. Number one, I wanted to be there for my son. I wanted to be able to be there as much as possible. I wanted to coach his sports eventually when he got older. I wanted to be there when he got off the bus. I wanted to be a huge part of his life. At that time, it was just me, my wife, and him. And when I was taking my master electrician's course, the teacher talked about niche business and to niche things down. And he wanted us to look into the phone book and look up electricians in the phone book. And he said, every one of those electricians in your phone book is your competition. And at that time, there was about 30 or 40 entries of electrician. He said, if you really want to niche something, look into infrared. So I looked into infrared and infrared testing. And all in 1 year of getting my master electrician's license, becoming married, I also started a business called Infrared High Tech Solutions. I bought an infrared thermal imaging camera, and I started scanning electrical panels, flat roofs. I was trained in equine thermography, so I actually flew out to New Mexico and was trained to do infrared thermography on horses, saddle fittings, and hoof imbalance. I did a lot of energy audits on houses for water intrusion, for air infiltration. And that lasted about 2 years. And then I really just got bored of it. But at the same time, I was still working with the electrical company. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go out on my own. So I quit the big electrical company. I was still doing infrared. The housing crisis started around, that was around 2010, 2011. I got bored of the infrared. I don't know how, but I ended up doing foreclosures in 2010. I did over 250 foreclosures for about 6 months. It was me to start, and then I hired another guy. We would legally get paid to break into the house, change the doorknobs, change the door locks, plywood up the windows, take out the trash. We had a Home Depot shop vac that we would suck up 6-month-old diarrhea out of the toilets. I mean, you name it, we did it. And then I woke up one morning and I said, I'm a master electrician. What am I doing? And that was right around the same time the nor'easter happened, Halloween nor'easter in 2011. Lost power, Central Mass. Everyone was calling me for generators and to put power back to their houses. So I said, that's it. I'm going and starting my own electrical business. I'm going to become an electrical contractor. And that's what I did. So in 2011, I started JP Electric & Son. In 2015, after building it up, I purchased Ruel Electric. And then in 2017, I purchased Patriot Electrical Contracting and Service out of Concord. And here we are in 2022. We have about 16, 17 employees. We have tens of thousands of customers throughout all of Massachusetts. And I get to do fun things like this and being on podcasts and talking about, getting kids involved with the trades and just doing absolutely everything that I'm meant to do. This is exactly where I should be in life right now.
Isn't it amazing once you kind of the pieces start to fall in place and you really hit your stride and you really have that overwhelming feeling of you're on the right path? Absolutely.
And it's been a wild ride, and I wouldn't change any of my failures for anything in life because I've actually, there's a quote in Sentinel Enterprise a few years ago that asked me about it, and I said, failure has always been my biggest lessons learned, because when you lose $1,000, you'll never make that same mistake again. And it goes true for everything.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have the same experience in my own business, and not coming from, learning the trades in school, kind of learning on the fly, you make a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And not just in my situation, everyone makes a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely. But it's our biggest lessons, I think, in life, and ones that do cost money at times and ones that, don't. But I think the ones that do hurt your pocketbook, those are the ones that stick with you.
Absolutely.
They burn.
Now, when you first went on your own, as far as like JP Electric, were you niched down there, or were you doing a little bit of everything?
So JP Electric was doing residential, commercial, industrial, which is, I think, pretty standard for any electrical company. That's where they all get started. We do a lot of generators, but even right now, we're still, a lot of residential, a lot of commercial, not so much a ton of industrial, but at that time, I mean, I was looking for anything, just building the business, you've got to hustle, making phone calls, emails. I was doing any bit of work that I could to build up the business. It wasn't as niched down as the infrared, because that was very specific, and it wasn't as niched down as the foreclosures, but it was more of where I needed to be at that time, and still do. It's just the electrical industry is so large, you can do a million things. But for me, then and really now, it's really about the customers. Our mission statement, and not to talk about the business, but our mission statement is provide our customers with the best electrical experience possible. And to me, at the end, I always tell our electricians, it's not me that's writing your paycheck. It's the customers. Those are the ones that we have to support and service every single day and put everything we have into their home or business. And that's how we get paid. It's not just me writing out your paycheck. It's Mrs. Smith that you installed a pool for down the street, or, the facility manager at the local hotel, or whatever it is. Those are the ones that you need to make happy every single day.
And we talk a lot about this on the show, or I have talked a lot about this on the show, but it's not how you make money in that transaction, but that's how you make money in the next 10 transactions, because that person turns, and when someone says, I need some electrical work done, you need to use these guys. They were amazing. Every part of the process, they made it so easy for me. And then your business is growing. Your biggest cheerleaders or your biggest spokespeople are the customers that you've done such a good job for.
Absolutely. I've said it from the beginning. I care about relationships, not transactions, because at the end of our day, when we take that last breath and we're laying down in that casket or whatever you are, and people are attending your funeral, I would rather have a room full of family, friends, clients, customers, all in that room versus, buckets full of cash. That does nothing for me. That does not fill me up. Transactions are useless. And I tell everyone that. I want the relationship. I care about the relationship. I want to know your home or business better than you do, because I want to be part of the team. I want, as human beings, we are emotional, social creatures. We thrive on that. So there is a lot of people that only care about their transaction, but that's just not me. That's not us. That's not our business. That's not what I teach my kids. It's all based on relationships, everything in life.
And now, as you started to grow with JP initially, what did that look like? As far as, we'll say, in the sense of employees, how big did you get before then you were to acquire the next business?
So back then, we actually grew pretty quick. I think we were probably 8 to 10 guys at that point. We had one secretary / office manager, and I wasn't even looking to purchase a business. I mean, I'm telling you, I was not the smartest kid. Like I had no money. Everything was built off of learning in the streets. And it was a supply house that called me and said, "Hey, Ruel Electric's for sale. You should talk to him." And I was like, man, I don't even know what to do. I said, "Okay, I'll call him." So I called him. Never met him before in my life, and he immediately shut me down. He said, "No, I'm not interested. I'm already in talks with a general contractor. He's purchasing the business." Now, Ruel Electric has been in business since 1954, when it was originally started by Roland Ruel, and now I'm the 4th owner. And I hung the phone up. I said, "Okay, no problem." I think that was on a Friday. And I'm not one to push the universe. Everything, I believe strongly in everything happens for a reason. I never push the universe. But over the weekend, something was speaking to me inside and said, "You know what, Josh? Make another phone call on Monday. Just ask him again." So I gave him another call on Monday. He said, "Actually, I'm glad you called. The general contractor canceled out. He doesn't want to do the deal. Let's sit down and talk." So we met at Dunkin' Donuts on River Street in Fitchburg. 3 hours later, he said, "You know what? I want you to meet my wife next week, and let me show you a tour of our shop and facility." Okay. Next week, I went in there, met with him and his wife. 2.5 hours later, we were, moving the deal forward. A couple months of paperwork, and September of 2015, I became the new owner of Ruel Electric, which was nothing that was ever in my cards, ever. I never thought I would do that. I mean, one business was enough, and now we've got 2. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's funny how you say you don't want to push the universe, but it's also kind of like, well, something was pushing you.
Yeah.
The universe kind of pushed you to make that other phone call, and you obviously felt compelled to do it.
Absolutely. And then the same thing happened in 2017. I was literally sitting at my desk, and we got a phone call, and he said, I know you're young, you're an entrepreneur, you're purchasing up businesses. Would you like to buy mine? It's out in Concord." And I said, "Absolutely not. I've got 2. I can't handle anymore. That I can't do it." And I think I gave it about 2 weeks. And again, it was the universe. I was like, "There's something there. I just have to go after it." So for whatever reason, we met at Dunkin' Donuts again, but it was in Acton this time. Again, same thing. About 2-3 hours later, and he wasn't married, so I didn't have to meet with his wife. But we made a deal. We had a couple more meetings, a few months of paperwork, and I think it was October, November of 2017, I purchased Patriot Electrical Contracting Service out of Concord, which has been there for 37 years. So incredible group of electricians, clients. I'm just so thankful and blessed on both of those transactions, the way that they worked out.
Now, what does that look like as far as, so obviously, based on the way you're talking about it, they retained their name and I'm assuming somewhat their identity. Mm-hmm. When you come into that situation, I'm assuming you're bringing some sort of management style or you're making changes. How does that kind of acquiesce to make it all work?
Yeah, so I'm stubborn, right? So I don't want to lose the JP Electric name because that's the name that I started with. Ruel Electric now has history since 1954, so they've got over 60 years of history in our area. And then Patriot has over 30 years of history in Concord. So I was like, I'm just going to operate all three names just completely separate. So we have 3 van colors, 3 websites, 3 phone numbers, 3 Facebook pages, 3 Instagrams. Everything is by 3. We have one, each person in our office has 1 phone, but there's 3 phone lines coming in. So you're either answering Patriot, Ruel, or JP. And 3 business cards, 3 shirts. I mean, it works. It's a lot of work. Maybe one day they'll all can be combined into one, but I didn't want to lose the history. People have known the brand, they've known the name, the phone numbers, all that, and that was just very, very important to me to not lose any of that. And even in the last 3 years, the company itself, the way we run it, has completely changed. We've updated and gone to better software. We have dispatch notifications. All of our guys are run on iPads. It's completely different. And we have lost some clients because of that, because they liked the small town touch that Patriot Electric had, where it was the owner that would go to every single job, and there was only 2 electricians. And, they like that. But we've gained so many new customers who have turned into clients, who turned into fans, because of the way that we're operating it. So I've changed the way that those companies have always operated, but it's been in a good way, and we've lost some but gained twice as many more.
Right. And well, in your position, you have to change. You can't run 3 businesses just the way you were running one. Yeah. Otherwise, if at the very least you'd be pulling your hair out every single day, at the worst you'd be going under.
Absolutely. So I mean, we made changes, we saved some money, we spent some money. At the end of the day, it's everything I do is in the service of others, and I tell all my staff that, my management staff, is what can we do to better serve someone else? And if we run the business that way, I don't see how we can ever go wrong.
I've been thinking about this a lot with my own business, but it's like, you fix cars or you do electrical work, but what you really sell is like trust with the customer. It's that they trust that when they call you and you show up, whatever it is that you do or whatever you get done, they know you're the best person for the job and that it is exactly what you say it's going to be.
It's tough in our industry. I'd say in the automotive industry, in the construction, electrical, carpentry, plumbing specifically, we have a major trust issue. And that's because I think there's so many, some will call them trunk slammers or man in a vans that are just looking to make a quick dollar on, nights and weekends. And I think there's so many times that homeowners have been burned by those people that they put a bad rep on us honest contractors and honest business owners. So it's tough because they're so used to people not answering their phone or not emailing them back or not showing up when they're supposed to or not cleaning up. So we have to do that much better of a job as an industry to change the outlook on the way people think and look about contractors. because we have that tarnished image that we're going to show up dirty, or do we even show up at all, or do we clean? And it's like, that's not the case anymore. This is a whole new generation of tradespeople, not just tradesmen, tradespeople. There's a lot of female in the trades as well. And it's a whole new generation, and we need to rebuild that trust in this industry because it is a big issue.
And I find as well, you notice with, say, my generation versus my father's generation, and even more so probably his father, is there's a greater and greater separation between the trades and, say, everyone else. And obviously, and we can kind of get into this a little bit, but when you drive all these kids to go to college, then, you go to whatever degree you get, and then you graduate a kid that doesn't know how to change a light bulb or doesn't know how to do all these things. So they're really putting it in your hands that when you show up and do something, you say, I did this. It's like, okay, I don't know whether you did that or not, but, building that trust. And how, I guess, to tie into where I was going with this was like, how do we get, I know you've been very focused on more people back into the trades and kind of changing that direction of younger kids, getting them interested and looking at it as more of a positive thing versus where the dumb kids go.
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I do a lot of speaking on getting kids involved with the trades. I actually wrote a children's book called What Does Your Daddy Do? It will be coming out probably June, July. And that was based on my years of going to career days for high schools and thinking, this is great. I'm glad I'm here. The kids are getting something out of it. But I think I'm missing the mark a little bit. And I wanted to gear it towards 4th to 6th grade and just plant the seed in the younger mind about all the cool things that an electrician does, a plumber does, a carpenter does, all the cool things. And I think another part of our issue is we need to get to the parents, because when the parents get educated about what the trades are about, the money that you can make, the purpose and the passion and the drive that you can have, I think we're going to see a change in this generation. I think you will see it because it's almost passed down. Like if that parent, if the parent's parent, right, the grandparent, if they talked down to them and said, you're never going to amount to anything unless you went to college, or if you go to college, or you need to get a 4-year degree because you need to be smart and educated. It's the only way you're going to get through life. If that's how they were treated, then they're going to do the same thing to their kids. Then when those kids grow up to be parents, they do the same thing to those kids. And that's just not the case anymore. And I'm glad you brought this up because it's a major issue, and I do think educating the parents, it needs to start there to let them know that, number one, if we think over the last 2 years when the pandemic started and everyone stopped working and everyone went home, you couldn't go to work anymore, you couldn't do this, couldn't do that, who were the ones working? I know my phone didn't stop ringing. Neither did the plumbers or the carpenters or roofers or anyone else. I don't know how your business was over the last 2 years.
For sure grew over the last 2 years, very much so.
Absolutely. And I've asked a lot of people, even real estate right now, where is all this cash coming from, right? So for the last 2 years, you've stayed home. You didn't have to fuel up your vehicle to get somewhere. You didn't have to sit in traffic. And so you're saving a ton of money there. You didn't go on vacation, so you're saving even more money there. And you're spending so much time in your house, you're like, man, I really want this faucet to work this time. Or, wow, I should really do my kitchen over. Or, hey, that car's been sitting in my garage. Maybe I should get it fixed now. So they have all this money and all this time. So who are the ones that are working? It's all the tradespeople. So no matter if it's the biggest global pandemic that we've seen since the Spanish flu, who's working? It's the tradespeople. This stuff doesn't stop. Your roof doesn't stop leaking just because there's a global pandemic happening. Your electricity still needs to work in your home. Even more so when you need to work from home and now make money from home. You need to make sure your Wi-Fi connection was good, that you had outlets installed into one of your bedrooms that now became your makeshift home office. All of those things. And, it's in the trades, when you want to be an apprentice, most of the time in the trades, that company's going to pay for your education, right? For me specifically, I'll speak that way. If you maintain a 70 or above average, you pay for the class. At the end of the year, I reimburse you. A lot of companies do the same thing. They'll pay for the books, they'll pay for the schooling. So not only are you learning how to become an electrician or plumber, you are also earning at the same time because you are working and getting paid and you're learning. You're going to an apprenticeship school to do all of that. College is not. The national debt right now for student loan debt is over $1.3 trillion as of November of 2021. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but do you know how many seconds ago 1,000,000 seconds was?
I do not.
So 1,000,000 seconds ago was 12 days ago. Okay? 1 billion seconds. How long ago do you think that was?
5 years.
37 years ago.
Wow.
Do you know how long 1 trillion seconds ago was? Over 37,000 years ago. That's how big a trillion is. So think about that in terms of student loan debt. That's over $1 trillion in student loan debt to go to college, that half of these kids graduate from college and they still don't know what they even want to do. Some of them don't even go into what they graduated from. Now, I'm not saying college isn't needed, because it is. We need lawyers, we need accountants, we need doctors and nurses, like all of that stuff. You need it 100%. But college is not the only option. For me, it was never an option. I was never going to fit that mold. I was a C&D student. I didn't like school. I knew I didn't want to go to college. So the trades worked for me. And that's what I think the parents need to understand, that if their kid is not going to fit the mold of college, that's okay. They do have the trades, they have military, they have whatever you want, but just they need to know that the trades is another option on the table.
I remember a friend of mine when, it was like my freshman year of college or whatever, and we were talking about another friend, and the mom said, what are they doing, like carpentry or something? And my friend said, yeah, Mom, they're making money instead of just spending it. And you talk about that debt, that trillion number, that student loan debt. Say you graduate with $100,000 from with a 4-year degree, $100,000 of student loan debt, which is not far-fetched whatsoever. That debt stays with you for life. If you go to a trade school, you apprentice, then you decide, you know what, I'm going to borrow $100,000 and start my own company, and then it doesn't work out, you could, obviously not recommended, but you could always file for bankruptcy and get away from that business debt. You will never get away from that student loan debt.
No, and obviously I never went to college, but it just seems like so much money to get out there, and I just see so many college kids that are just like, what are you going to do after college? I don't know. It's like, how do you not know when you just put $100,000 of your own money or your mom or dad's money or scholarship money into a degree that that you don't even know what you're going to do? So I always looked at it like, you're 18 years old, you're going to graduate. Do you spend the next 4 years going to school and partying and having fun, and then you literally have nothing, or maybe a job and you get out? Or you become an apprentice and you go to the trades, spend the same amount of time, 4 years, but you're also earning at the same time, and you get your license after those 4 years. The national average right now for an electrician is 55 years old. For a plumber, it's 58 years old. The national average, now this is national, not just Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is a lot higher. The national average right now for an electrician is, I think, $52,000 a year. A plumber is, I think, $55,000 a year. And national average for a 4-year college degree student to come out and get a job is $55,000 a year. But they have a roughly $28,000 to $32,000 in student loan debt. A national average. So again, the trades are not for everyone. But neither is college. But it just seems like the trades is never even, they're never even on the ballot form, right? It's never an option. It's almost like we have an exposure issue, where parents are not exposed to the trades, so they never even bring it up with their kids. But the best apprentices that have ever worked for me are the kids that climb trees, the kids that have tinkered with their dirt bikes growing up, or fixed their bikes, or played with Legos, or just didn't fit the mold. Like maybe they got in trouble in school, or they weren't good on grades. But man, do they make some good electricians, and good plumbers. I've heard it from all the trades,
And it's funny you say like they're not exposed to the trades, but in reality, like the trades are everything around you. Everything that actually happens in the real world, the physical world, the car you drive, the shelter you live in is all the trades, and people are so disconnected from it.
I think because, again, I think it's an image problem. I think they believe that they're above it. And I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. But most of us are hired. We're hired help, right? We're hired to fix your light. We're hired to fix your faucet. We're hired to change your oil on your car. So I don't want to say everyone's looked down upon, but it just seems that way, that we are almost forgotten about until they're like, oh my God, my toilet's overflowing. I need someone. Who do I call right now? Well, then we're the hero, aren't we? It's just funny that way.
And, you said about the national average for electrician being 55 years old. I think that there's like around 10,000 or so baby boomers retiring every day in the U.S. We are about to have, it's something that I think a lot about on a daily basis. I'm very interested in purchasing and acquiring businesses. We are about to have the largest turnover in business assets in history. And there's so many electricians, plumbers, auto mechanics that have built a business, built it up to wherever it's at. Their children didn't get involved because they sent their children to college, and now they've got nothing to do but walk away from it. And there's so much opportunity there for you to come in, buy a business just like you did multiple times, and continue to carry that, and everything's already there for you. The framework is there, the structure, the customer list, the equipment, and you can just start rolling.
Absolutely. I just heard something the other day. I don't know how true it is, but they said the best investment right now is senior living facilities because of the baby boomers, because they're all going to need to go into senior living facilities. It's incredible. The average age for an electrician, so this was done about 5 years ago. I think there was a study in Massachusetts, about 32,000 licensed electricians in the state of Massachusetts. The average age at that point was about 52, and 25,000 of those electricians were over the age of 55. So at that time, 5 years ago, we had, 5, 6, 7,000 electricians that weren't over the age of 55? It's like, what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years when they all retire? And now we're at that 5-year range. So what's going to happen in the next 5 years when everyone's retiring and these kids aren't coming into the trades? We're going to be in a world of hurt. I heard, I think it was 2 years ago, one of our local wire inspectors said, Josh, pretty soon when people call you, it's going to be like getting your physical at the doctor. Oh, you need your outlet replaced? Okay, we'll see you in 9 months. Like, there's just not going to be enough of you to go around, and it's just, you can build a market basket or one of these grocery stores, but you can't do it with 2 people. It takes massive amounts of people to make these big buildings. So it's an incredible time to get into the trades, 100%.
And economically, from a supply and demand standpoint, what does that mean for the dollar value per hour of your time? And what is going to happen in the next 5 years for that dollar amount? How much is that going to go up?
Oh, absolutely. The cost of electricians, the labor force dollar amount's going up. What we have to charge out is going up across the board with everything. But it's true. It's going to cost a lot more money to get a plumber to your house, a welder to fix the boat or stairs, or, same thing with the auto mechanics and everything else in between. It's going to, just because of supply and demand.
Now, obviously we've been riffing back and forth, and we could keep going, but let's talk a little bit about what you've done and kind of your mission as far as getting people more involved in the trades and what that's looked like.
Yeah, so I do a lot of career day speaking. I was just at the Sizer School today. They had a big college and career fair. I was laughing because when I went there, it was in their cafeteria, and they have all the tables set up along the outside wall. And then they had one table set up in the middle. And all on the outside wall I'm not even joking. Was I think there was a roofer, there was me, and I think there was like a hairstylist school. Right, the rest of them were all colleges. Every one of them, Anna Maria, Mount Wachusett, Fitchburg State, every one of them along the outside wall. Who was in the middle? Me. I felt like it was a trap. I'm like, why is the electrician in the middle of this fishbowl here? But it was good. We had a lot of seniors come up and talk to me and just, inquire about becoming an electrician and getting involved with the trades. And, my uncle was a carpenter. My brother's a plumber. So it was really neat. Next week, I'm going to be at Conan High School in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, talking to those kids and getting those kids involved. We have the children's book coming out. I think it's just a huge mission and passion of mine to get the kids involved with the trades because, like I said in my original story, I believe the trades saved my life. I would have been lost. I wouldn't know where to go. I mean, if I didn't go into the trades, if I didn't go to that school, I don't know what would have happened with my life. I mean, I was so lost and confused. My mom was my best friend, and I still am. I mean, I'm 37 years old and I'm still lost, It's not still lost, but you know what I mean. That was a tough time in my life. That was a really, really tough time, and I had to grow up really, really quick. But I think the trades and just being able to work with my hands and being proud of the things I built, I felt like I was making a difference.
And now, as far as kids going into the trades, and you and I talked a little bit about this, not so much going into, but just in anybody that's in the trades, one of the biggest problems that plagues tradespeople is a lack of education, I would say, on money management, finance, business. So what do you think can be done to try to drive that side of the education and not have people that are just still working so hard, but just paycheck to paycheck? How can these guys get ahead?
Yeah, I think, we did have that conversation, and I've had that conversation quite a bit lately. And I think cash management, economics is something that's not taught in school. I mean, again, I'm 37. When's the last time, or if you even know, do you know how to balance a checkbook?
I do.
He does.
Because of my business. Yeah. I will tell you this, I never even wrote a check before I started working with my father.
I think my girlfriend's mom, when I was a senior in high school, I think she taught me how to balance a checkbook. But I don't think I've written a check out of a checkbook in, I don't even know, 15 years or something. But it's just, you're not taught that in school. And if a mentor or a parent figure is not teaching you that, you're never going to know those things. And cash management, yes, we all work for an hourly rate, or we get paid salary. Either way, we get a weekly or biweekly paycheck, and then we just spend it all. We just find things to buy, and we have bills to pay and mortgages and rent and health insurance. We just spend it all, and then we get sad, and then Friday comes along and we get happy again, and then we spend it all. And it's just this constant cycle. And, I don't know if it should be in the high school or a separate class, but I think we all need to learn about cash management and just saving. Even if you were to save 10 cents of every dollar that came into your bank account, or 20 cents out of every dollar, and just put it to the side and invest, or put it into a savings account. Invest would be a lot better, so that way you get the compounding interest. But you've got a lot of these people that win Powerball, the multimillionaire jackpots, NFL, NBA players, all these people that have millions and millions of dollars, and you're like, how do they lose it all? How do you have $5, $15, $20 million? You have the world in your hand. How do you lose all that money? And it's because they spent it all. Because they don't have any cash management. Nobody has ever taken them underneath their wing and say, you know what? For every dollar that comes in, I want you to take 20 cents of it, just put it to the side, and you'll never miss it. But eventually, it's just going to compound. It's going to make you more money. Robert Kiyosaki says that, he he said that when your money is making money, when you sleep, that's how you know you can become rich. You know, if we're always working for money, you're never going to become rich. You know, and if becoming rich is a goal of yours, then you can never work enough hours in the day to do it. You're just not. So I think cash management is huge for anyone, but I see, because I'm involved in it, I see a lot in the trades where everyone wants to just chase the next dollar. They want a dollar raise, or they're going to jump to this company for a dollar here, for a dollar there. An extra dollar an hour is only $40 a week. Minus taxes, you're probably getting $27, $28. It's nothing. It's not a lot. But if you were to take and have good cash management and take 20 cents, 25 cents out of every dollar that you make and put it to a 401k or a Roth IRA or something that's going to make you money, that's how you're going to become rich. And that's how you can truly live a life of passion and purpose and stop chasing the dollar. Because if you continue to chase the dollar for the rest of your life, you will never be happy, ever.
When you and I first talked, you mentioned a book, and it just had me lit up because you're the first person that's ever, besides me, that knew about this, and I stumbled upon it, and it was really changed everything for me as far as business goes. Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, and it really is such a basic, simple way to look at money coming in. And I always tell people, if you're an employee of a company and you get $100, you have $100. If you are an owner of a company and you get $100, you've got like 10 or $20. The rest of that money goes to taxes, expenses, your overhead. And I think especially when guys are starting off in the trades, they kind of break out on their own. I'm going to start doing jobs. If you're working for a guy, right, and you're seeing what they're billing for a job, you start to think, man, I could do this job by myself and I could be making all that. And then you start to, I'm going to go out on my own, or I'm going to do some side work. And then all of a sudden you start paying for insurance. You start paying for a van. You start paying your taxes, which you find out, we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
what happens when you're not ready to, when you get that surprise at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that really changed the way I looked at business. And since I started implementing that system, I never have to think about, is there money in the account? Am I going to get paid this month? And it just is such a peace of mind that allowed me to really focus on the areas of the business that matter, growing the business, satisfying the customers, and really just kind of things starting to get some traction and take off.
Absolutely. Have you read his book, Pumpkin Plan?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I love the analogy of the big pumpkin. I think that's so cool. So for anyone that hasn't read the book, Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, if you look at your bank statement in business, your profit and loss, the bottom line, which everyone always talks about if you hear about in business, what's your bottom line? And the bottom line is the profit. It's your net profit after everything else is paid off, the materials, the labors, COGS, all that stuff. The bottom line is your profit. That's what you're left with. Well, Mike Michalowicz coined the term profit first, where that bottom line actually becomes your top line, where you pay yourself first. And there's also, I don't know the exact wording of it, but there's a law called Parkinson's Law. Have you ever heard that?
I have, yeah.
Man, you're just as smart as me, because I don't know a lot of people that know about Parkinson's Law. But essentially, it says if you give somebody 8 hours, they will get the whole job done in 8 hours. So if you gave somebody $100 to spend, they're going to spend all of $100. So the same thing goes with Profit First. If you pay yourself first and you set up separate accounts, so for me, in my business, we take 20 cents of every single dollar that comes into my company, and we put it into a separate account called the tax hold account. That money is not touched whatsoever. And what happens then is we need to run the company with 80 cents on every dollar, and that's it. That's all there is. And if we can't do it, then I need to find better ways to save money. So, buy cheaper material, or not pay as much, or maybe pay invoices sooner so I get discounts, or maybe we don't buy enough, we buy less toilet paper or something, right? So you're just saving money because now you only have 80 cents on every dollar instead of the full dollar. But that 20 cents goes into that separate tax hold account. And at the end of the year, when you get your big tax bill, you don't have to worry about paying taxes, because all that money is sitting there and it's not touched, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, Mike Michalowicz also says that you can do that for your profit, your vacation fund, your Christmas presents fund, whatever works for you. You could separate that for your personal finances along with your business finances. And it's completely changed my life when I read that book.
So I'll tell you a story real quick. 2 years ago now, in November, my dad had his first spinal surgery, and I had always worked like a side job in a restaurant, and I left that job to focus on the business full time. But at this point, I was still really green. This is like I still figuring out doing the books and everything. I mean, I'm still learning. Obviously, every day is learning experience, but I really didn't know what I was doing, and went through the month. There's surgery, I think, was November 7th, maybe early in the month. And I went through that month, wasn't really making any money in the business. Everyone knew my dad wasn't there, so they kind of backed off. Then we get into December, and I'm really chewing through whatever money I had left, and comes time to buy presents for Christmas, and I had no money. And I will never forget this as long as I live, but I just cried on Christmas morning because I was so upset that I had no money. I had no money to do anything. And I said, I will never, ever, ever let this happen again. And that is when I made that shift to start putting that money aside and say, I'm going to have this aside so I don't have to think about it. So all year, you just slowly, and you don't miss it when it's just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But then when you go to cash it out, it's like, wow, look how much that's grown. And this is all for you,
Absolutely.
To take and do with whatever you need to.
Yeah. I mean, even if you have to label that account tax hold, because then you're definitely not going to touch it. But I mean, even 5 cents, whatever works. You think it's going to make a big deal, that you're going to miss it, but you're not. So you set it aside. Personally, if you were to set it into a separate bank account that you would literally have to physically go into the bank to take that money out, that's even way better. Like, don't attach it to a debit card or a checking account or anything. Just put the money into the account, and if you need it, you would have to physically get out of your car to go into the bank to sign it. Even further, have 2 signatures on there. Like, give it, have your wife, she has to sign it and you have to sign it, or a buddy or your aunt or something, to make it that much harder to not go get that money.
I always talk about with my personal finances, like hiding money from myself. As soon as it comes in, it goes right back into a place where it's protected.
Yeah.
And then that number grows and grows. And like for me, it's real estate, so I wait. And once I see that number getting pretty big, it's like, I'd love to buy myself a Porsche. That'd be nice, But then I try to spend it on some real estate and protect it. Like you said, buy something that's going to pay you to own it and have that money generating while you're sleeping.
Yeah. So Robert Kiyosaki, I love that guy too, but he says assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out. And it just makes so much sense. And what he also says is to use the assets, the profits from the assets to pay for liabilities, right? So, your house is a huge liability because it's not making you any money. But real estate investing, like you're doing, is making you money. But I think I agree with Robert where our house is a liability. It's not making us any money until you sell it. But you're living in it. It's a liability.
And people, I think, look at investing and look at risk, and especially, when you're young and coming up. And I had a little bit of this. I was indoctrinated in this, risky, like the stock market's risky, real estate's risky. Well, what's risky is never putting your money into something like that. If you're in a position, depending on what you do, whether you have, if you just got to put it away into a mutual fund, or if you, like yourself, you're an electrician, you may know a little bit about real estate. You may have access to some deals that come along just because of being in the business so much.
Yeah.
You bet on yourself and you put your money where you can control it, and put yourself or reinvest in your business where you can grow and create a better life for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, coming into this building, walking across the parking lot was risky. Someone could have hit me and I could have died right then. I think anything in life worth doing is risky. And you have to take massive action. You have to sacrifice and take massive action on everything that you're doing. Otherwise, you're never going to do anything.
Absolutely. And now, I want to be respectful of your time here. What is next on the horizon for you? What do you have coming up, and some things that you're kind of focused on?
I think I think putting myself out there, giving everything I can, and serving others on a higher level. I would love to get out there and get on stages more and motivate and inspire other entrepreneurs that seem to be struggling or they don't know how to make that next step. I've been there. I have the experience. I think obviously continuing to get the kids involved with the trades and educating parents and educating the public about the trades, not just electricians, carpenters, plumbers, welders, across the board. I can't wait for this book to come out because I will tell you, it will be almost 12 months to write, design, approve illustrations, just everything. I never realized how hard getting a children's book would be to get out into the public. There's just so many steps, but I just hope it comes out right the first time.
And now we talked a little bit before we got started, about kind of a fallacy in life in general about hard work. And, people say, like, if you just work hard, good things will come to you.
Yeah. I think we all work hard, right? And what I was talking to you about is, the custodians at the schools, I don't think they get enough credit. I don't think custodians and janitors in themselves and housekeeping staff get enough credit. They work their butts off, and I don't think they get enough appreciation. And most of the time they're working, in the not in the dark, but in the back, right? In the back end where you're not seeing them, or they're coming into the schools at night and they're blaring the music, but they're mopping the floors, they're cleaning the bathrooms, they're pulling out Gatorade bottles out of the bleacher seats, all so that way when the kids and teachers come in the next day, that the whole school is clean, right? So they work hard. You work hard at what you're doing. I work hard. I think we all work hard in every single profession and every occupation. But I don't think that itself breeds success. I think, in my opinion, success comes from, perseverance. I think it comes from grit. I think a lot comes from sacrifice, though. And I think that's what stops a lot of people just short of success. Is they work hard, they put in the hours. They could be working 80 to 100 hours a week. That doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You're going to have to sacrifice things. And I think in business, especially an entrepreneur, you have to sacrifice, a guaranteed paycheck. You have to sacrifice, losing money paying taxes. You have to sacrifice losing friends or family. I've had a lot of friends work for me, and I've lost a lot of friends. You have to sacrifice, particularly friends that aren't on the same level as you. I'm not better than them, but I know my purpose in life and I know where I was going. And a lot of them were just happy being where they're at. And it's like, well, then you need to move out of my way because I'm going here. So I think sacrifice has a lot to do with success, and it's not just hard work.
Yeah, I know. I think that is like a perfect place to leave it. So, I really appreciate you coming down
Absolutely.
here. Real quick, where can people find you? I just want to throw out too, like you've got a TEDx talk. That'd be great. People can search that. Search Joshua Page, TED Talk.
Yep.
That should come up. Where else can people access you?
So I have a Facebook page, Joshua Page. Instagram is JP Iron Lab. I have a coaching platform called Iron Lab, which, real quick story on that, the Iron Lab is my personal home gym where I do all my working out and I do all my thinking and all my business down there. And I was trying to think of a name on what I could call my coaching and public speaking and authoring business, and I couldn't figure it out. So I have whiteboards that I literally write things on every single day, and I put my goals up there. So I wrote Iron Lab, right? Because that was my gym down there. And I said, what can I name this coaching business? I started looking at the word lab, and I really looked at it. And all of a sudden I started writing out my family, Lindsay, Ashton, Brody. And I'm like, there it is. Lab is all my family, my wife and my 2 kids. Lindsay Ashton Brody spells out lab. It's the Iron Lab. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I do a lot of public speaking. I coach other entrepreneurs, male and female, just getting their head out of their ass, finding purpose and passion in life, and just living to their best life that they can. YouTube, I have a channel on YouTube. The TEDx talk was a TEDx salon speak in Santa Barbara called College is Not the Only Option. And I think that's about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for coming down here, man. This was great. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people are going to as well.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in with us. We do this to share the stories of some of the incredible individuals in your community. All we ask in return is if you found value from this episode, please share it with someone else who may also gain value from the show. Please feel free to rate or review the show. Your feedback helps us give you more of what you want. Until next time, I'm Tim Lanza, and this was another Local Legacy.